Well, good evening, everybody. Look at that. I just showed up and I got my icon on. I thought I would show you the beauty before I show you the brawn. So now I will go ahead and show you me. But I want to thank everybody here, including my mods that is in the chat. I know this was just kind of an out of the blue thing. Literally, Robert will tell you, I just sent him the link, 10 minutes ago, Robert?
Yep.
So that will tell you how well organized this was. Just to let everybody know, I want to say a big thank you out to Evil CJ, as prior to doing this, I happened to have ventured over doing a live with him, which unfortunately ended pretty quick as my stream cut out. And then I realized I had to be here with all of you. So I appreciate each and every single one of you. I do see Swamp Rose is here in the chat. Tonight is one of her nights off. She has been working extremely hard. She needs a little bit of break to be able to get some of that beauty sleep. Don't you think, Robert? She's probably the best looking one of the group.
Oh yeah.
So
And
she definitely deserves.
I'm glad my wife's out of the room when I said that.
Well, my wife's at work, so we're both safe at the moment, but she's beautiful inside and out. She's a great family member to both of us, so we're very
Yes.
proud that she is here with us in the chat, and we're thankful for her, but also I'm thankful for all the other mods that are here, Relentless for answers, Official. I did see Doodlebud was here a little bit earlier, so a big thank you to all of you. And Robert, why don't I go and hand it off? Why don't you say your hellos, as I know you're probably streaming on your channel as well. Get your hellos in, and then we'll get going with some discussion.
Well, right now I just looked at this moment in my chat yet, but I want to say I do want to say hi to Echoes of Clarity, Swamp Rose, and looks like we have some new in here. Zoe, yeah, she says thanks for sharing, and
Zoe
also
mingles on my channel a lot. Robert, amazing, amazing. Leaves some great comments, great discussionary thought processes. So now that Zoe's being able to see you a little bit more, maybe they'll get to know you too.
and Kellyanne, I noticed her comment. She said, "I heard chatter that he confessed, not sure it's true."
Ladies and gentlemen, like I don't want to toot my own horn, but I know a little bit more in depth. I think Robert, you know, Swamp knows a little bit of how more in depthly I know Brian than many else out there. That is rumor, ladies and gentlemen. I have seen it on a couple of other channels as well. Brian Koberger has not confessed to anything. So please understand that. We're still on our way to trial, ladies and gentlemen. It'll be a big shock to me. And if I'm wrong, then I will come out here and publicly state that I'm wrong. But back to you, Robert.
She says you can Google it. um, no, I've had a pretty non-eventful day today. Yeah, I was practically a hermit most of the day until my wife decided, "Hey, honey, it's payday. Let's go to Walmart."
Gotta always love paydays, right? Gotta love paydays.
Yep, and I'm actually kind of glad I went. I got a whole bunch of graphic tees for $2 a piece. I got some.
Well,
I got a kit. I got a Kiss shirt. I got a Bart Simpson shirt. And Caitlin, when she got home, she goes, "Daddy, why are you wearing Bart Simpson?"
I wanted to say hello to Echoes of Clarity. Thank you, Trisha, for being here. I enjoyed our conversation earlier today. Always a pleasure. You're like family to me. And James Moen, thank you for being here. You were one of the biggest supporters and bright and just a positive stained ground on my channel. I'm so appreciative. I want to let everybody know we do dual stream. When we do these lives, we are a team. We dual stream to the other channels. I want Robert to get as much exposure as he possibly can. I would like to see Swamp Rose get positive feedback and exposure as well. And I'm just here to be a part of this team, and I love the community and I love doing everything. So we do try to bring you different angles from different channels. So we are always happy, no matter which channel you choose to view on. Please just hit that like button, leave a few comments, help that channel get into the algorithm, get it be seen by more, and then that'll make a big difference in everybody's hard work. I'm sure you agree, Robert.
Yes, and I actually invested in a printer, and yeah, like I was texting you earlier, brother. I've been busy printing off documents most of the day, and you were right, brother. That 175-page transcript I printed off earlier, I used all my black ink up.
Well, yeah, Robert hit me this morning, and he said, "Look, AR, I'm gonna go for the gusto here, and I want to print out these documents so I can better read them." And I'm thinking to myself, I'm not sure you've paid for printer ink anytime as of late, but just watch what happens when you print out all this stuff. And now you're giving it up, Robert. You're telling us just how it is because you're already out of ink.
Yep, and I got to go buy some more ink tomorrow.
There you go. There you go. As everybody probably knows, when you get in depth into the Idaho 4 case, and this is the honest to goodness truth, there are more documents and more filings in this case than most cases all tied together. Like in most of my cases, you did not get this many filings. This is back and forth, best, that could be said. That's the most, I guess, patient and positive way to say this. This is just relentless document filing. And I could understand why the clerk of the court and why this judge would be heavily upset about this case because it's unchained. And most of them aren't even available as of yet. I'm sure you're finding that too, Robert, that the newest docs that we see on the court summary page have not even come full circle to be released to the public as of yet.
Yeah, no, because when I was printing off, like I printed off the lemonade for the alibi and a couple of others. Yeah, I noticed that a lot of the documents over there on the document side are still dated the 24th of February. So there's no new documents that have hit that side yet.
Yeah, they're in the case summary, so we know they've been filed. We know that both sides have met the time stamped deadlines to get these motions filed, but now it's up to the clerk of the court to get those posted correctly for all of us to see. And we're not sure when that's probably going to happen, but I would estimate between probably Monday and Wednesday of next week you're going to see those start to trickle out, and you're going to be able to see those start to hit. And I have an idea of why people are starting to feel as though Koberger could have potentially confessed, and that's based upon the recent filings that have coming across regarding his autism and the different things of that nature. But as we've gone over and we've discussed this quite a bit, that is for mitigation purposes. That's not for plea agreement purposes. That's nothing that's going to help him get a better plea agreement through the state. The state can work a plea agreement to give him life without parole on these charges, even without that type of information. So that's where a lot of people are starting to gravitate. And that's the hardest thing, Robert, about this case. And you and I have both watched it and we've shaken our head because you can see so many people that claim, well, they don't even claim, they actually did work within our justice system, either as lawyers or even law enforcement or detectives. And they're making these bold, big statements like this. And it's just so clear how false and how untrue these things are. Yet people gravitate to it and they listen like it's the next news. And that's sad. It's very, very sad.
Oh yes, it is. Like what I read to you, through text message, in the lemonade for the alibi. When Bill Thompson states, you know, even were the defendant to attempt to comply at this late point in time, the state is irrevocably prejudiced against an alibi. So
Yeah, I mean, this is when you get to this stage prior to going to trial, and I always try to bring a little bit of the experience to the table for all of you guys that are here in the chat and that follow the channel. The one thing that I really want to bring to you is actual experience of what it's like when you're working your way through this process. I myself have endured many of trials because sometimes you know when you need to take a plea bargain because you were just so bad dead to rights on committing the crime. You got caught with it red-handed. There's no possible chance that you're going to avoid getting convicted of it. So the best right at that point is the state typically will put 3 to 4 plea bargains together. The first one is typically the worst that you're going to get. The second plea bargain gets a little bit better. The third gets better than that. And then the fourth is just, we know we got you. You're going to sign this or else we're going to give you the max sentence. So it gets worse again. But I want to bring, people through the feeling of what it's like to work yourself from the very beginning of these types of proceedings all the way up until the day you're sitting in that chair at trial and then sentencing thereafter. And that's the thing, Robert, exactly what you were kind of coming to bring to me with the prosecution really doing all they can to nullify as much of Brian Copeter's capability of defending himself. This is a force-fed way to get him to have to take the stand so that they can cross-examine him. I'm sure you agree with that.
oh yeah, yeah, yes, I do agree with that. I mean, even where Ann Taylor states in the transcript from the actual hearing that day, Your Honor, we have provided to the prosecutor, uh, all that we can provide to the prosecutor and more. She says I, then she changes it. She said we, then she changes it to I think that Mr. Thompson is right. We don't have to tell him uh, if Brian is going to testify or what Brian might say.
Sorry, I thought I had myself on mute there. Yeah, I was actually looking for that document so that we can kind of bring it up. I know it's been gone over quite a bit, but in all reality, what's happening here, the state of Idaho is going to refer back to when we were, back in judges' courtrooms, and they were battling back and forth, and the state obviously demanded that Brian Copeter and Ann Taylor get that alibi in front of them. And that way they could start to investigate it and dissect it. And that's fine and dandy. That's fine and dandy. But you also have to understand that a part of an individual's alibi is not always saying exactly where I'm at, who I'm with, and this or that. But I have to be able to give you the reasoning. I'm combating the evidence that you're showcasing against me to disprove what you're saying. So in my battle to prove myself as an innocent man, I have to be able to prove the very data of the cell phone or the various things that you're bringing to the table as a prosecution, as evidence. I have to be able to prove those incorrect. So to be able to do that, I've got to get the discoverable evidence turned over to my defense team. And that's where we've had this standpoint in this case. If you remember, Robert, Judge was not forcing the issue at any point in time to force this prosecution to pick up the pace and get that information and that evidence over so that the defense could do their investigation and their work as well.
Yes, and I've noticed with Judge's court, it was a very laxed setting that the prosecution and the defense were in. Now, that is no longer in Lake Hall County. You're in more of a fast paced type of situation where this Judge Hippler clearly, even you and I have had discussions. He doesn't want this case at all. That's why he wants it to go to trial so he can get this case out of his courtroom.
Well, yeah, he made that pretty pretty clear right off the bat when he honestly, at the first time everybody sit before him in the courtroom, said, I really don't want this case. I don't want it in my courtroom, but here I am, and we just have to make the best of it. So you're absolutely right, Robert. I mean, the minute he took this case on, you could tell he was hitting that gas pedal, making sure everybody knew there were going to be deadlines. They were going to stick to them, and we're going to get through this and get this to trial as quick as possible. And I think he's still on that pace right here, right now. So,
Yeah, I mean, because if you look at it, like we discussed a couple of nights ago with with the alternate suspect theory that the prosecution is trying to get suppressed in the court because they don't want this jury to think that anybody else did it except for Brian.
yeah, I mean, and that's their job. That is their job. I absolutely understand that is their job. And it's the defense's job to be able to stand up and defend their client. And that's all I ever asked. When my attorneys, Robert, came to see me, and we get brought into this little room at the jail, because I never seemed to be able to get bail. I don't know about you, but they never wanted to give me bail for some reason. But
Oh no, they deem me a flight risk.
yeah, that was always kind of the thing with me too. They knew if they gave me bail, they were going to be tracking me up wherever the heck they could track me in the United States. Because I always had this concept, when it came to jail, you're going to have to catch me. Like I'm not just going to give up and sit in jail until you figure all this out. You're going to have to come find me.
Yeah,
And they knew that. I mean, they knew that. They never gave me bail. So I know what it's like. Thank you, Marky Betty. Marky Betty just said I'm looking well. I appreciate it. I've had so many people that have reached out that have given me such positive vibes in regards to kind of the stages I'm going through now. I know I'm not clean shaven. I know my hair is getting out of whack and my clothes are probably not ironed appropriately. But you know what, ladies and gentlemen, on a positive note, I do feel as though we're making a turn for the better. And I couldn't thank my wife enough, and the people that back us and do all that as well. And Don Caps, Kiki's off for this evening. She has worked so hard. She's been putting out some content that she deserves a good night off. She was here in chat for a little while, but I hope that she's sleeping well right now and getting some rest. So,
yeah,
but back to kind of the point, Robert, when we would sit and we would discuss back and forth with the lawyers, the plain of day part of it is the lawyers are very well versed in what they're trying to accomplish, and I'm sure you've noticed too. They will definitely look at you when they know you're got, like, you don't have a chance in the heck of what's going on. They'll tell you, we got two routes to go here. We can either just go ahead and look for a plea bargain and try to get you the least amount of time in the penitentiary as possible when you're convicted, or we can focus and try to tear apart the case to find the loopholes to get you off on a technicality. And that's always if you're guilty of the crime. And Robert, you and I both know, being from that background, we knew
yeah,
when we were hemmed up. We knew when we were caught red-handed. You know what I mean? It just what it was. And when I'm watching all of this going down, with the amount of motions being filed and the fighting that's transpiring within this courtroom, it's because his lawyers truly believe they can showcase innocence in this case. And I know you and I now are really right down the middle. We are very much truth seekers. We are the justice system being held accountable just as much as somebody that could potentially be a criminal. We want everything right down the middle. We want the right people. We want the right sentencing. We want everything to be by the book. But I would have to say, from my past experiences, and you could potentially go there as well, uh, with the amount of things being released via, the these motions and the arguments that are transpiring in these hearings, these attorneys feel as though not only can they get Brian found not guilty, but they can prove that he's innocent.
Yes, and like we observed last night, it's so odd that the prosecution is wanting to suppress the AT&T cell tower data. I mean, that's what they supposedly pinged him with. Now, all of a sudden, why are they wanting to suppress it? The only thing I can think of is that those cell tower data will prove that he was somewhere else around the time of these killings, and the state doesn't want that. The state wants to everyone to believe, including the jury, that he was right there in the house at that time, and that's the only reason why they would want to suppress the cell tower data.
And I've had quite a few people that have reached out to me, like regarding some of my criminal history and the things that involved the investigation, some of my crimes, and they've tried to talk to me about cell phones and cell phone pings and things of that nature. And a lot of my criminal activity happened through the 90s into the middle 2000s. And, the thing about it is cell phones didn't really start blowing up until, the 97, 98s, and they were still kind of expensive back then. So I didn't utilize them that much in that time frame. I was still relatively young at that point, and they just weren't that popular until you got into the 2000s, and then they became more popular. But it took them time to build the capability to track them and do all of this on the law enforcement side of things. So most of my cases didn't involve this high tech following of pings and cell phone towers and things of that nature, which is amazing. Yeah, see, Relentless says beepers. You remember the old beepers? I love them because
Yeah,
they were cheap.
I used to have a beeper, and the first cell phone, which was that brick cell phone, like Zach Morris had in freaking Saved by the Bell.
Yeah, $50 a minute if you used it.
Yeah.
I My parents had a brick cell phone, and I remember taking it from them and leaving and using it a couple of times. And boy, howdy, that bill just about made my parents fall over and pass out. I mean, it was so bad. But today's technology is by far different than when I was younger and committing the mainstay of my criminal activity. So I didn't have to fight these type of things in the court the same way that's happening now. So I don't know how to really discuss a lot of the cell phone stuff. And I did get caught in the penitentiary. I take that back. I got caught in the penitentiary a couple of times with a cell phone, and they used the black box. When you were locked up, did you hear about the black box on the yard, Robert?
Yeah, I heard about the black box.
So they could literally pinpoint a cell phone on the prison yard to the very cell that it was in. And I remember the first time I got caught, I was on a higher yard, and I was texting. My wife had gone to work, so I text out to one of her sisters, who she was very law enforcement friendly and not so AR friendly. So she immediately called DOC and let them know, that I was texting her from within the penitentiary, and we were coming up on rec time. We hadn't quite gone out to rec yet. We were still on lockdown. So I always put away my phone when we were going out to rec, because obviously you don't want to get caught up out on the rec yard with it. So,
Yeah.
I'm putting it away. Before I knew it, here comes this officer breaking into my cell door, and I've got the phone still in my hand because they had used the black box to pinpoint exactly where I was and where it was. And so I'm snapping that thing in half, trying to get it into my coffee cup so they can't get data off of it. It was just crazy, crazy, crazy. But that was really my first inkling of how they could even track those things, and it's pretty amazing how they can do that.
Oh yeah. Um, I remember, when I was in Lansing behind the walls, we there was a fight that broke out between the. N- Now here's what the weird part is. There was supposed to deal was supposed to have gone down between the Native Americans, the Mexicans, and the Muslims, and it was over tobacco, and the middleman, all he was supposed to do was distribute it, and then what was left, they would give him like his cut, which was like 10 or 20%, and that's not how it worked out. The middleman went ahead and took his cut out of that tobacco before it was equally dispersed between the factions. And when it was found out, and mind you, we were locked down for like almost 2 weeks, because the Native Americans and the Muslims locked and socked this dude in the chow hall. Yeah, bright and early, 5 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, because we were going through for breakfast, and they had that part cordoned off, and they locked and socked him, and one of the Muslims had shanked him in the chow hall. So we eat our breakfast. We go back to our cell house. 3 hours later, uh, we're all out in the day room looking down at Seg, and they're bringing the Muslims and the Native Americans into freaking Seg holding cells. And I'm looking at a friend of mine. I'm like, "What's going on here?" And he just looks at me. He said, that's red stuff we saw in the chow hall. I'm like, "Yeah." He said, "Yeah." He said somebody got locked and socked and shanked in the chow hall, because they ripped off three of the most prominent prison gangs there in Lansing, which was the Native Americans, the Muslims, and the Mexicans. And I'm like, "Oh crap!" And then about an hour later, all we heard was the alarm, and the guard going, "Everyone, return to your cells. Lock down. Return to your cells." I'm thinking, "Oh God, what's going on?" Um, one of the Muslims attacked a prison guard over in C cell house. Messed him up really bad. So we were locked down for like almost 2 weeks. And yeah, I've never been through that type of situation before. Being locked down for that long. I was pacing in my cell, and a friend of mine in the cell next to me, he goes, "Robert, calm." He said, "Calm the hell down." I'm like, "Dude," I said, "I'm going freaking stir crazy in here." And he goes, "I know." He said, "But calm down." He said, "You're only going to make it worse."
Hmm. Well, Robert, for those 2 weeks that you were driving nuts, just imagine me doing over 10 years like that. I was
Oh yeah.
always locked down. So I did see Deb Tape asked me if I had seen the new filed document from today. So what I'm going to do, I'm looking up here. Hold on, Robert, because I'm going to
Okay.
share this so everybody else can see it too, including yourself. Let's see if we can kind of find this document, and we'll go through this real quick. Hold on a minute. So I know everybody that comes into the chat, so that you know a little bit. I mean, obviously, I'm not the only one that's been through rough times in the past. Um, Robert has a story of his own as well. So sometimes we get into a little bit of discussion where we share some of that with you. We want to bring you just a little bit of knowledge of not only things that we've been through in our past, but also what others that have been through in their past, including someone like a Brian Koberger, so that we can help
Yeah.
you understand the system a little bit better and what they're going through. But so I asked well, because I'm not looking directly at the chat, Robert, see if Deb Tape can answer, where do we see the new document that dropped. I do see 228 to 25. We've got a subpoena deuce tecum. So we got another subpoena that went out
Yeah.
today, and then they sealed an order, temporary sealing it from the February 24th filings.
Yeah, Meany just
Um,
stated the only new document I saw today was something temporarily sealing the February 24th motions that haven't been sealed already.
so let me see here. I know the autism spectrum disorder is now sealed, and it wasn't sealed to begin with. That's both exhibits 1 and 2. And then you've got the stipulated motion to file defendants' exhibits in support of their motion to strike that death penalty, which is now going to be under lock and seal. Pretty much all the motions that were there in regards to the death penalty are now going to be under lock and seal. But here's another one: to preclude the death penalty and adopt other necessary procedures due to the state's numerous disclosure violations. So this one right here, Robert, is new because I do check in on these all the time. It was filed on the 24th. It is sealed. I have a pretty good feeling. Can you see that on the screen where I'm
Yeah.
highlighting this, Robert?
Yes.
Because I'm not looking at the screen where you and I are. Can you see this?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. So
And
obviously we've had
yeah,
the motions that were all filed prior to that in regards to the death penalty, and then we also had the motions for the cell phone incident that Brian Koberger went through in the 2014. But this one right here, ladies and gentlemen, I highlighted this one because I literally go through these probably numerous times a day. I'm sure you do too, Robert. And
yeah,
this one here stands out to me more now today than it has. And for some reason, I have a feeling that it's going to go with this new one that came out today right here, the temporary sealing of the February 24th motion. So because this is very sealed and now all of these are under lock and seal,
yeah,
I have a good feeling that I mean I can look through these other ones. I mean these other ones have all been here. Statistical analysis, the parties regarding investigators in the courtroom, inconclusive data, those were all there. Inconclusive data in motion and limina, that was there. Witness identification by bushy eyebrows was there. So
Echoes wants
none
to
of
know what
those
does
look
this. Echoes
new
wants
to
to know
me.
what does disclosure violations mean?
Means they didn't turn over evidence. So, in my opinion, and I'll just give you my opinion of what this is going to be. Boy, that's pretty small, isn't it? I thought that was a little bigger than that, but what that's going to be is they're going to argue that the prosecution has not turned over discoverable evidence in a timely manner. I think many people have discussed this. Many content creators have begun discussing this as well. That sanctions could be sought by Ann Taylor and the defense team because they are still requesting discovery, and we're far past the deadline at this
Yeah,
point. What are they up to now, Robert? Like number 23 or 24 for the motions. Is
yeah,
that right?
yeah. I believe it's 23. Yeah, I believe it's 23 or 24. And yeah, this is the first case that that I've followed, brother, that has that the motions of discovery have gone that high. And
Oh,
more,
by far.
probably in
Yeah, by
yeah,
far.
probably in the Luigi Mangione case, it probably hasn't got that high yet. So it makes me wonder.
Oh no, look.
Yeah, it makes me wonder exactly what the prosecution is hiding.
Most of the time, let me tell you, in my biggest case that had 40 other people involved in it. And Catherine asks, it is great to see. I'm glad you made it as well. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, when I see stuff pop up in the chat, I sometimes lose my train of thought of where I'm going in my discussion. But um, my biggest case had five. So, like, I remember it well because even my lawyer's like, I can't believe we have to ask this many times for one piece of freaking discoverable evidence. And I'm like, five
Yeah.
times? Why do we have to ask so much? And now we're seeing we're into the 20s. But, ladies and gentlemen, with everybody discussing it in the chat, I want to take a brief moment. Robert and we're going to look through this, Robert, because now everybody is discussing this potential confession by Brian Koberger, which now would not even be the time for a confession. But let's go through this real quick, Robert, because I know you follow this pretty hard too. So
Oh yeah,
we'll
brother.
start with the 24 filings, and what we're gonna do, we're gonna kind of go through this real quick just to see if there's anything in here that looks like it could be filed in a sense of, well, this is where they would get the idea that there's a confession, because this is the only place you would see anything that would potentially show you an idea of a confession. um, I mean, excluding Amazon click activity isn't a confession. Conditions as aggravators, not a excluding IgG, that's not, you know, vague and undisclosed expert testimony, that's not confession. I don't know, Robert. I'm looking through this, and
Yeah,
I don't
I
see
don't see it.
anything that's lead me to believe. I mean, I'm gonna come all the way down here. I mean, we've all looked at those. Let's look at the
Yeah,
28th. We got a subpoena issued, Deuce Tecum. That has nothing to do with a confession. The autism spectrum, that has nothing to do with a confession. The John Judge canceled motions in limine in John Judge's courtroom, 32725. That's nothing to do with the confession. 4-2 canceled hearing, John Judge. That's nothing to do with a confession. John Judge pretrial conference canceled, nothing to do with the confession. I mean, you get into limine hearings on the 9th of April, which I'll be there for. Then you get into the 16th hearing, which is another hearing there with Judge Hippler. And I think I'm planning on, no, that one I won't be there for, but I'll be there for the 9th. And then you go into pretrial conference and hearings scheduled in July, which those are going to be things that run into jury selection and things of that nature because the trial starts on the 11th of August. So I don't see anything here, Robert,
yeah,
that leads me to believe that there's anything that's right in front of us that could present the
yeah. And me,
possibility of a confession.
yeah, Meanie's saying in
Go
my
ahead.
chat, why are we talking about a non-existent confession? And Echoes of
Yeah.
Clarity stated he has not confessed. There are some creators saying it, but I do not. But I do not think so.
And ladies and gentlemen, I don't really know how to put this. I would know. I would know. Um, I'm not going to tell like the world how I would know, but I would already know.
Yeah,
And I don't know who's putting it out there, and I'm not going to disrespect them in any way
yeah,
because maybe they have a source that has given them some information that I don't know anything about whatsoever. But I do know other people that are around the Coburger camp that would know as well right now because they're knowledgeable of the family, they're knowledgeable of people directly involved in this, and I think we would know something because I think um, they would have brought out more information in regards to that. So I'm not going to talk badly about anybody that's bringing that out. I don't follow a heck of a lot of creators, Robert, and I guess maybe that's just to keep my mind sane and keep me in my own lane and doing my thing. But I don't see anything from the courts, and I have heard nothing from people that would have reached out to me if this was the case. So I don't know.
Yeah, I've been because I heard some rumblings about it yesterday, and I did some checking as well, and yeah, I think it's bogus. I think it's just another rumor. Yeah, something to stir up speculation to get another theory going. Because if he actually confessed, we would have heard about it like day one.
Well, and let me kind of, Robert, I don't know if you've ever prepared for trial and then at the last minute said, oh, God, I'm not going to do this because if I lose the trial, I'm going to get the max sentence. Of course, in our scenarios, we weren't facing the DP or anything of this nature. So we can't say that we had this type of, um, pressure above us. But life sentences like I faced before could legitimately put a lot of stress on your shoulders. And
Yeah.
I've had last minute's change of heart where I was set to go to trial. I had worked my way through the process and getting ready to go to trial. And at the last minute, just kind of called my lawyer over and said, "Hey, go see what they're offering right now." If I was willing to just plead out right now and just you know say I'm guilty. And it's always one of the hardest decisions to do. But at the end of the
Yeah.
day, um, it gets out quickly when you do it. Like the word spreads by the masses, not just a few. And I don't think, and this is not saying anything disrespectful about the platform or those on it. I just don't think this would be the first place that came from. Um, And I definitely wouldn't say like if it's coming from the Nancy Gracelands and the Ashley Blumfields and stuff like that. I mean, you can see how great their experts are when they have them on. I mean, is that what you really want to trust and believe in a high profile case like this? I believe if that was to happen, we would have had Ann Taylor um, probably at a microphone at a podium announcing that her client had decided to plea and that she appreciates all the support and the love and everything and that they're working behind the scenes and they apologize to the Idaho taxpayers for the costs so far and there would be a lot of jumping through major hoops. You know what I mean? I don't see it as this would be released through a YouTube
No.
platform or even through the families of the victims themselves. I think this would come directly from the defense team and Bill Thompson.
Oh yeah. Like in, let's say, like in the court document or something like that. Um, but yeah, yeah, it wouldn't come from when it wouldn't come from anybody except for Brian and or the defense or the prosecution.
Right. And I think a major key to this, and James Mount, I do see your question. I'm definitely going to answer this here in just a split second. I just kind of want to wrap up the idea of a confession. One of the number one things that would transpire in this is first we would see documentation rolling through the courts to remove that death penalty because nobody's taken a plea bargain that includes death penalty still as the sentencing factor. So first we would see the removal of the death penalty, prosecution motioning the courts to remove death penalty as a sentencing guideline. And then from there, we would see immediate court hearings set up for the next week or two so that they could go ahead and get it in front of the court, that there's a plea bargain in discussion. They would put that court date for trial on hold. The limine hearings would be put on hold. And as you know, Robert, they would be working into trying to work that deal out and getting that in front of the judge, because the judge still has to, um, even approve a plea bargain.
Yeah.
So this substantially, with everything I'm seeing, just based off of my personal experiences and how plea bargains work, I would make no move in the direction of believing that this is happening, and I definitely wouldn't get upset or frustrated by it, because it's just not in the works. I mean, everything I've heard,
No.
everything that I know, it's not in the works. And Ann Taylor and her team, especially with Bicca Barlow, ladies and gentlemen, Bicca Barlow didn't request to come on to this case so that Brian Koberger a couple of days later could take a plea bargain. That's not the way this works.
No. I mean, even though Bill Thompson, he's notorious for taking pleas, but at the same time, he said in the beginning of this case, there will be no plea bargain. We are going for the death penalty. So I mean, if Bill
I
Thompson can
think you're
state,
cutting in and out.
hey, um, yeah, in the beginning, yeah, Bill Thompson, he's notorious for plea bargains, but in the beginning of this case, he has already then stated he does not want a plea. He's going forward with the death penalty, and that's saying something coming from a man who likes to take plea bargains. He don't want a plea bargain in this case. He wants the death penalty, but at the same time, he's trying to tie the hands of the people that's defending Bryant, and that's just the way I see it. Like I stated last night, brother. I mean, and it's like he wants this final victory before he retires. He wants a slam dunk conviction with a slam dunk sentencing, so he can just ride off into the sunset into retirement.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I also even have to take it a step further than that. None of the victims' families would sign off on anything less than the death penalty in this case. And, if I was the father of a victim of this case, I wouldn't either. I would push this to the levels. And I know there's a lot of people that don't believe in the death penalty. And I'm not sure I'm a full shake believer in the death penalty as well, but I just put myself in the position as a victim's parent. I want the harshest of discipline for whoever committed the crime that I can get. So I can understand why people are pushing for that, you know, want this crime to have the harshest. I still don't think, at the end of the day, this is going to be at all an easy trial to work through for either side. I don't think the prosecution's looking forward to it, and I don't think the
No.
defense is either. But at this very moment, and people are going to chop my legs off, I think that the actual defense has the upper hand going into this, as long as this judge allows them to utilize the defenses that Brian Koberger should be able to utilize. I think that, that there's a good standing here. But
Yeah.
they do. The defense is really working hard. They would like to get the death penalty jury removed from this. That's why they want this, death penalty removed. They want a fair and impartial, normal jury much more than they want to try to get this case tried in front of a fair and somewhat partial death penalty jury, because there is a major, major difference. So, just real quick, Robert, I want to go in to answer James Moen's question with my opinion, and then I would like you to give yours as well, in regards to 911 call. Actually, I'll let
Yeah.
you give your opinion first, and I'll give you mine. So, Robert, how do you feel about that 911 call? Is it going to be played at trial, or do you think they're going to keep it locked up and locked down?
Well, I mean, if they play it at trial, yeah, that could be a huge mistake because technically it's a unconscious person call, and I mean, even the 911 dispatchers stated that the the call itself was pretty chaotic because the phone was being passed around to multiple people. See, here's the thing with the unconscious person call. If the person would have said, "Hey, I found my friend deceased on the floor with his girlfriend in the bedroom," then I could see them releasing the call, in the trial. But I don't see them releasing just for an unconscious person call, unless there's something in that call that they're not telling us. Like, we haven't heard the call, so we don't exactly know what's going on in the call. All we've heard is it was a chaotic call and multiple people on the phone, and the phone was being passed around. That's all we've been told. So if they play the unconscious person call at the trial, we might hear stuff that we've never heard before. Like, we don't know exactly what Hunter Johnson had stated on the 911 call when he had called 911 for the unconscious person. We don't know what he stated after the unconscious person, and we don't know who the unconscious person was. It could have been Dylan. It could have been Bethany. We don't know until we hear that call, if they play the call at the trial.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that I mean that's the bad thing about this 911 call is so many want to know what transpired in it, and it's been so locked down and kept so quiet. I mean, don't get us wrong, ladies and gentlemen. There have been numerous creators, including myself, that have reached out trying to get our hands onto this 911 call, and it's just not happening. It is locked down, and now we see in the motions for eliminate that the prosecution wants to keep this out, which, look, I'm kind of torn on it, Robert. I'm torn in the sense I can understand why you would want to keep it out because it's probably a very graphic and devastating phone call to listen to that's going to have numerous people with emotional, you know, issues going on within it. And then, it's going to be really kind of a sad thing to listen to. I got to give it that. But I also think that the defense is going to want to make reference to things that have transpired within this call because it's going to actually showcase who was on scene, when did they get there, who was maybe people they got into the actual home first, who could have potentially handled things, and James Mullen added to the question here as well. Do we think that the defense has heard that 911 call? I want to say I would absolutely think so. But at the end of the day, with the way that things are not being turned over in a timely manner, I mean, who knows? You know what I mean? So I have a lot of questions, and that's a discussion that I want to have, and I want to do some content on it and share some of my feelings and my thinking because I think it is important, and I think that it goes a long way in maybe dictating whether there could potentially be compromising of the crime scene or contamination. Um, if you'll bear with me here, just real quick, ladies and gentlemen, someone sent me an email in regards to paperwork filed as of today, the 28th of February, in the clerk of court, order temporarily sealing February 24th. I think this is kind of what I was going over. All filings not released by the court for public dissemination made by the parties in this matter on February 24th, 2025 shall be temporarily sealed pursuant to Idaho Court Administrative Rule pending this court's determination as whether sealing is appropriate. It is ordered. This came from Deb Tape, Robert, who is
Cool.
amazing with documents and information. So I'm trying to take a look at what she sent me here to see how this may pertain to the confession deal. I'm gonna have to take a look at this more after the fact, though, because at the point that I'm not, you know how it is, Robert. We try to put our minds onto more than one thing, and we can't do it.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to dive into that a little bit better and look at these documents and things. But to kind of get back, do I think the defense has heard it? Like I said, I would hope so, but then I tend to believe they probably have not.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. I don't think they've heard it either. Um, yeah, there was a question by official uh in my chat. I just gotta find it again. Uh, I gotta scroll up. Yeah, okay. He says, I can't imagine being able to handle the disgust and sadness if he goes through the DP and he's not innocent, and he's innocent, or vice versa if more evidence actually proves he is guilty. And then he backs it up down here. I just gotta find it. Okay, that was it. But Bria also asked a question. I gotta find a question now. She goes, legally, can they keep the 911 call out?
Say that again. I was reading something here. Say that again.
Bria asked, legally, can they keep the call out?
Yeah, so as of 3 years ago, they passed a law stating that they do not have to release public records of 911 calls. So I'm trying to dig more into that because, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to deny the fact I have a lot of questions about this 911 call and the reasoning why they're so afraid to release it. In my
As do I.
mindset, you know, I 100% understand how graphic this situation is going to be, including the crime scene. I could never weigh out in the proper discussion of how bad this crime scene potentially was. I can't even fathom how devastating the thought process of hearing the screams of the young college kids at the crime scene when they find a situation like this. But I think this 911 call is going to give a lot of light in regards to who actually was at the home prior to 911 being called. And a lot of people have really gotten on me. Trust me, I've gotten feedback in regards to my want to know more about this 911 call, where people say, well, it's going to be excluded from trial anyway because this all transpires after the fact of the crime, so it doesn't even matter. It's not going to be spoken about at trial. You know what? If I was a defendant in this case, I would want this discussed at trial because this is potentially the very people that trampled the crime scene, the very people that could have brought evidence into the crime scene from outside of it. And I just
Yeah.
feel as though when you've got a case of this dynamic and the end result being a death penalty sentence, you need to know every little bit of details. And especially when the main key to this entire case, and we all know it now, ladies and gentlemen, and that's why the title of my live is, did Ann Taylor literally box Brett Payne into this little gift wrapped, you're going to perjure yourself on the stand when this goes to trial, Mr. Payne? Because I think a lot of things coming out of your mouth right now, the I don't knows, the I can't recalls, the unanswerable demeanor that you carry to where you won't answer our questions is going to bite you in the butt when we get to trial. Because if you change that at trial, and all of a sudden out of the blue, I ask you a question that in these hand held in the air, you're going to testify under oath to my questions at the hearings, meaning the hearings in regards to the Franks hearing and the hearings for the suppression of evidence. You have to remember that he was under oath when he took the stand for that. And when he answered those questions, that locks him into those answers when you get to trial. So if Ann Taylor trips him up by asking a question in a different route that he wasn't expecting, and he slips up and answers that, oh, that's perjury, baby. That's perjury. We don't want
Yes.
to see perjury. That's not where
Mm-mm.
we want this to end, because we want this to come out. Look, ladies and gentlemen, I am a firm believer, and I know in discussing this with Robert and my other partner in crime with Kiki, we want justice. We want not guilty or guilty. We do
Yes.
not want a mistrial. We don't want anybody getting off on a mistrial due to a technicality. We want honest truth and justice. So I'm telling you right now,
Yes.
we don't want perjury, Robert. We don't want somebody to get up there
No.
and get this case dismissed because they perjured themselves. But we do want to catch people in lies. If
Yes.
you're
Because
lying, you did it on purpose.
yes, because what I stated in I think one of my videos last night was that if there's a mistrial or a hung jury, knowing this judge, if there's a hung jury, he's going to make them go back and deliberate until they can come up with a verdict. But if it's a mistrial, then Brian Culver is just going to be rearrested and retried, and we're going to have to go through this all over again. But it may not be the state of Idaho who rearrests him, and retries him. It could be, like you was talking about last night. It could be federal. Federal could rearrest him and retry him under in a federal court. So yeah, and I do believe that the state of Idaho basically hangs in the balance in this entire in this entire case in this entire trial. They need to get stuff right so the feds don't step in and say, "Okay, you've had your turn. Now it's our turn."
Right. And the one thing that I've had the pleasure of getting to know some people that are from the area, whether they be in my Facebook groups or various places. And the one thing that they always really want presented to the people is this is not ordinary within their community. They truly love their community, and these people truly have like a home there, and they've got camaraderie with a lot of the people around them. So I don't want to ever put a perspective out there that my thought process leads me to believe that Idaho's just this wild and crazy and I can't believe it type of state. But this type of crime is unfortunately going to bring a lot of visual watching of this area. And right now, I think even at the end of the day, the local community is in shock and confusion over the very fact of what they're seeing happen with their local law enforcement not being able to answer questions on the stand. Like, they would have felt so much better. And James Moen, I want to give you a big shout out. I'm very thankful of you as well as all of the other mods. Just so that you know, James Moen, I have a lot of love, and I want to welcome you to my mod team. So thank you, as well as everybody else that helps both Robert and I. It's great to have you guys. So, at the
I
end of
see.
the day, go ahead.
I was going to say, I see. Spill the tea. Said they have already had a federal grand jury, and they didn't file charges against him. They could have charged him also if they had cause.
That's very true. But I'm also going to answer it this way: they have no time restraints of when or why they want to charge him. So if they 25 years from now want to come back and charge Brian Koberger with federal capital murder, they absolutely can. So I just warned people that state they held a federal grand jury and they didn't file charges against him. That's the end of the road. That's not the end of the road. Unfortunately, when it comes to the federal or even the state could drop charges against Brian Koberger right here, right now, and they could refile them 40 years from now. Did you know that, Robert?
Yeah, they do the they do the same thing here in Kansas.
Yeah,
They can drop charges against you. It's called WAP, without prejudice, and they could bring the charges back up at any time that they want to, years down the road.
that's right. These have no timetable. They have no time frame of when charges have to be pressed. It's a capital crime. And when you get into the federal standard of things, some of the lower level federal crimes have, some time restraints on it, but feds can charge you just literally whenever or however they want to. I don't absolutely think they're going to, but I think it could be a bailout situation if they chose to, and it could literally bail the Moscow Police Department, the Idaho Police Department off the hook and get this over into the federal side of things and let them work their way through, their judicial system, which is by far different than what the state is. So
Yeah,
I'm not saying that's what's gonna happen, and who knows? You know what I mean? And what's happening in our country today? Look at over at Luigi Mangione. He's been tried in the federal courts, death penalty eligible. Where in the state cases, I mean, it's like now they're fighting back and forth, and even his lawyers have blatantly come out saying their client's being treated like a federal inmate, but he's being housed in a state jail and they haven't even, so
yeah,
this just it gets crazier and crazier by the minute. But I mean, my ultimate point with the 911 call is I do believe it's important. Whether they utilize it um, as a determining factor of the crime or anything to do with why or how the crime was committed, I don't think we're going to get that from it. But what I do think we're going to get is let's figure out who was there. Let's decipher whether there was a potential time frame of people in and out of that home that could have contaminated it. I
yeah,
want to know, based upon who I hear on that, how did you clear them? What type of investigation into them did you do? Because all these people want to throw out the idea that Brian Koberger revisited the crime scene after the crime was committed the next day or whenever they felt as though he had actually revisited that crime scene. Because Medi make the statement, hey, most criminals revisit the crime scene after committing a capital crime like this. Okay, well, then how do you disprove that somebody in the group of individuals that showed up prior to the 911 call at the crime scene isn't your potential person that just happened to come back to the crime scene?
yeah. Because we've heard in the original like interviews that Stephen Christie did in the original, in the beginning of this case, where they both said people were cleared too quickly. Yeah, yeah. Even that look, at the memorial that Jack D gave to Steve. Yeah, and Steve, shoved his tongue into his cheek like he wanted to say something, but it goes back to what you were saying, that people were cleared too quickly, and more likely that the alibis that they gave weren't checked out. They just cleared. Okay, yeah. Well, you weren't there. Okay, yeah, you're clear. Without a proper investigation, into where they were at the time of these killings. If their alibi is good, if it's solid, if it's not, then haul them back in for more questioning. And just like Ann Taylor stated in that transcript, that she asked Brett Payne, yeah, in a quote, yeah, what was, she said, what was your role? And he said, I was assigned lead detective after about the first 24 hours. And he said, not, he didn't say in this case, he said in that case.
Right. And remember, I was going over that during the live. Do you remember how upset I was at the disrespect that he
Yeah,
couldn't even speak directly towards the case that he was talking about? He put in his very wording, in his very, you know, point direct answer, that
yeah,
case. Like, you can't refer to Brian Koberger's case as his very important case that's in front of you. You got to call it that case, and that's extremely frustrating. And it just goes to the idea that since this very crime happened, and I literally think that not only the community should be up in a roar and screaming about the redacting and the hiding of everything within this case, because it's happened to them from the day that it happened. They were not privy to the evidence. They weren't privy to what law enforcement was doing as an investigation. So their fears were real that they potentially had one of the worst capital murderers running around in their community that you can imagine. And
yeah.
they weren't getting answers. And then you have to transition over to the victims' families. They weren't getting answers to the
No.
point that they even had to put their 2 feet down on the ground and say, don't make me be the alpha. Well, if law enforcement had, this is just my opinion. This is my opinion. If law enforcement had been better at doing what they were supposed to be doing and more transparent in what they were doing, I don't think that it would have opened the door for other people to step in and try to put the puzzle pieces together, because they would have been working it methodically and they would have been doing it more open for everybody to see, which closes the door on the conspiracies and the making of narratives and the things of that nature, because the truth is coming out and people are able to see it firsthand. And I want to welcome Heather Fitzgerald to our chat. Thank you for stopping in. Ronnie Sutton, my brother from London. It is good to see you, my friend. I hope you are doing well. I know you were not feeling well. I send you a lot of love and a lot of heartfelt care to you and your family. Get well soon, relax, and of course, email me and continue to chat with me, because I love you, my brother. So he's literally from London, Robert. He is such a
Oh,
good
cool.
individual. He messages me. We discuss a lot of things, and I really care about this man as if he's a part of my family. And
Yeah.
Unfiltered Lucky decided to drop by and say hi
Well, hey,
to his
Lucky.
buddies. That didn't mean us, Robert.
um, Now I saw a comment from Mark and Betty from my side. She goes, Robert deserves more subs. Very knowledgeable on this case. Natalie says I agree, and then gave me the purge. He says Robert brings a lot to the table.
I absolutely agree. For everybody out there, Robert and I have been through a lot together, both on the platform and off, behind the scenes and on the scenes. And we've worked together now for a good long time. We become brothers, we become family,
Yeah,
to the point that obviously I care about not only him, but I care about his children, his wife, his everyday life. We talk all day, every day. I think we're in constant contact. And Robert, I do agree. I think you work very hard. You're growing. You're getting better at your trade. I try to lend as much help, as a brother that I possibly can. But I think you're spreading your wings very well on your own, and that's exciting to watch. And I know people are paying more attention to you, and I just hope that continues to grow. So, and with having our good friend Lucky in the chat, I am gonna kind of make a little bit of the announcement. The plan is on Monday, ladies and gentlemen, Unfiltered Lucky, warning label Nina will be joining panel with me, and we're gonna be discussing some things, and we'll have some announcements, and it'll be a pretty good show. And I know Robert will be here, and Swamp will be here, and it's going to be a great time. So
Oh yeah.
everybody, please keep your eyes open for that, because it's always exciting, Robert, when we can get somebody like Lucky to come on with us, and also other people with great minds, and just a drive to be good people and help others and explain from their experiences and their perspectives their thoughts on these cases as well.
Oh yeah. And this would be my first time on panel with Lucky.
Well, he's a good man. I think you guys have spoken behind the scenes a little bit, because I know
Yes.
Lucky is man, he's amazing at just kind of reaching out and giving help to those, and kind of leading through his experiences and what he's endured and overcome and what he's learning from on a daily basis. So it's definitely exciting. I truly appreciate him as well. And I know I bug him more than I probably should, but
Yeah, Melissa says Robert is so good at talking average American talk. No lawyer, no lawyer, no criminal, no lawyer, no criminal. Robert seeks like normal way. It means a lot, very much also to. And then she put a smiley face and a heart.
yeah, I agree, Robert. You bring a lot of perspective from just your normal everyday individual walking through life, that's enduring what each and every day brings to us, and how we overcome that. And I definitely appreciate that as well. I mean, it's knowledgeable, it's caring, and it's down to earth, which I think a lot of us need, that clarity in that direction. So,
Now
um,
I put a video out last night, and I was it was kind of a somber video almost, because when I look at Brian, especially in the beginning, how healthy he was when he was in Latah County, and now how skinny he is there in Ada County. And I stated in my video last night, it gives me Richard Allen vibes, because how we saw Richard Allen before, and then when he went to that prison, how he came out, very skinny, very, almost like he was being tortured. And it makes me wonder if the same thing's happening to Brian in the Ada County Jail, because he doesn't look like he used to. He's very thin now. He looks very frail, and it just makes me wonder if he's being messed with really hard there in the Ada County Jail.
well, I mean, I hate to say, when you're being held in the segregation units like this, Robert. I mean, this is what transpires. This happens, and I've tried to bring to light for many out there exactly what the experiences that Brian Koberger is going through. But you've got to actually magnify even the experiences I can share with you to a higher level when it comes to Brian Koberger, because he is in on capital charges, and this is in the Idaho neck of the woods, to where he's an outsider in Idaho that just took 4 local lives. These young ladies were from the area. So it's a difficult situation. It's very, very difficult. And ever since his case got moved from Latah County to Ada County, I tried to give everybody, you and I even discussed it, and I told you this was going to be a situation that's going to be far more stressful than what he even may have been expecting. And you can see that, in his, not his so much the way he carries himself, because I think he's still doing his best to carry himself with confidence. but you can see it in the manner that he's probably not sleeping well, he's not eating well. The difference in commissary is big. The food out of the chow hall is huge. You know that, Robert. You've been
Yeah,
around the block a little bit.
yeah,
The various places that you get moved to, or where you're incarcerated. They all serve different levels of food quality, and the commissary's different. And it's tough.
yeah,
I feel for most people locked up, and I know people would get on me from a lot of different backgrounds and genres that would say, "Well, you shouldn't feel for people that put themselves into those situations," but I do, because I know that you're not convicted as of guilty yet. You're still innocent until proven that. Yet you're treated more guilty than you could ever imagine. So it's pretty sad. Pretty
yeah.
sad.
Like when I was in Norton, and I got to Norton on 666. Norton is like a Norton is basically a prison that is on an old tuberculosis hospital that closed down in I believe it was their early 60s or late 70s. And yeah, the main cell house which is a cell house. That was the actual hospital. And in the basement where the maintenance groups have their offices is the old crematorium. The old crematoriums that they had, and the old morgues. And uh, now, yeah, I don't know if it's yeah. I do believe that cell house is haunted because I've had like a lot of weird stuff happen when I was in that cell house. But I say that to say this: when the chow hall there in Norton was smaller, more compact. When I got to Lansing, it was about the size of a football field. So I went from a small chow hall that only sits like 50 people to a chow hall that could seat like 300 people. And
Yeah.
the food quality there at Lansing was different than the one at Norton.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. You have to adjust on the fly because, it's different wherever you go. I mean, you got slop upon slop, but some slop is typically better than other slop. And, when I was going through the jail system in Arizona, we had Sheriff Joe Arpaio as the gentleman running the jails, and he didn't believe in serving anything that was edible to people within that jail, whether you were innocent or guilty. He didn't give a darn. I mean, he was all about his money, and he was going to serve the worst of food and make you wear pink panties and pink underwear and everything else. So he did a lot to put people down. But I want to ask a big favor of the people within the community chat. If you can do me a favor and direct some questions, I want to put Robert is a little bit of a showcase here for a little while. And for those of you that have not subbed to Robert's channel, if I have a mod that's in here, or if you have a mod, Robert, if they post your channel link in your, it should show in mine, right?
Yeah.
If you can have a mod on your side or a mod on my side, post Robert's link. But I would like, because typically I talk a lot, and I want to showcase Robert a little bit. So if any of you have some questions for Robert, I would love you to go ahead and post those, and I'll ask you the questions, Robert, and you give us your opinion and your thoughts on those. Is that
Okay.
fair?
Yeah, that's fair.
That's if anybody asks one.
Now, before the questions, I'd like to talk about the elephant in the room. Um, he was white. I don't know how he was white, but he was white.
that you and I have talked about that one behind the doors, and I know you've done some work on that as well via your channel and your videos. So, I mean, That should tell you right there it's not a creditable witness.
No.
I mean, I hate to say it that way. That just right there um, throws your testimony out the window, your statements out the window, because if you can't even justify how you know somebody's ethnic race or background, or but you're going to describe them as a perpetrator of the crime, you should damn well know how you get to the point of what color they are or what race they are. Um, Especially if you're going to be able to needle it all the way down to, uh, bushy eyebrows and things of that nature, because that's kind of a detailed, thing. Well, Jeff H. How many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop? Well, Robert,
3.
you might be the one that could actually answer that, I believe.
It takes a lot. Don't listen to that commercial from the 70s and 80s, where that Alice says 3, 1, 2, 3. No, it doesn't take 3.
I was hoping that people would actually ask questions regarding the case, not lollipops. But I mean, a Tootsie Roll, I guess, is not a lollipop. So I guess they got me a beat on that.
Well, that was Jeff H. I mean, he's a good dude. I mean, he's always, he's always leaving comments on my videos, and I mean, I try to either heart them or answer them the best I can, but he's relentless. uh, James Mullen says, Robert, thanks for all you do. Do you think LE has a second possible suspect list list they are onto, but just not speaking? Well, if James, if you look at one of the questions that Ann Taylor asked uh, Brett Payne in that closed hearing, they did have the unknown male B and unknown male D DNAs, but they refused to upload them because it would take away from the knife sheath DNA. They thought if they uploaded those two, it would destroy the knife sheath DNA. And in my opinion, that's not being a full on investigator. What you want to do is you want to eliminate every DNA possible, and with them not doing that, that shows that this investigation was just downright sloppy.
I agree. And here's another question for you, and we'll transition into this one. Echoes of Clarity asks you, do you think Anne has the other DNA samples from the crime scene? And if so, I mean, I'm going to add to that question for you, Robert. Do you think they've been able to test it or do anything with it?
I honestly think that if they did get the unknown male B and an unknown male D, they would have turned it over to Bicka Barlow, and Bicka Barlow would more likely have it tested, since Brett Payne admitted in the transcripts that they had it, but they didn't want to test it because it would have taken away the touch DNA from the knife sheath, and they didn't want to do that. And even Brett Payne stated in that closed hearing that before the 19th, they had never even heard of Brian Koberger. That the day he heard about Brian was on the 19th. So, I mean, I hope that answers your questions a little bit, Echoes.
That's a very good answer, and I'll kind of just tie in behind that. The defense has every right to DNA found at the crime scene, and they have every ability to test that DNA as a crime scene. However, it has to be properly collected by the investigators at the crime scene and those that were working the crime scene, and it has to go through a chain of custody that would make it as an admissible DNA sample. So we have to hope that whoever worked the crime scene and collected these very samples, did it in an appropriate way that would allow the defense the opportunity to test it and use it to their defense capabilities. So next here we've got another question for you, Robert. What would have been cheaper in your opinion, to be able to walk the jury from the courthouse to the actual house where the crime was committed, or most would actually just van them over and then allow them to walk around the house and see it for themselves? Or would it have potentially saved the taxpayer dollars building the dollhouse and then wheeling it out in trial in Boise at the courthouse?
Well, what I think, Melissa, is the fact that it would have been cheaper for, since the house before it got torn down, um, the house would have been closer if the trial would have been there in Latah. And I believe, AR can agree with me on this. The only reason why the change of venue was granted was because of the G's doing their own jury surveys. But if that would have never happened and the trial was still there in Latah and the house was still standing, it would have been a lot cheaper. Yeah, they could have just took a van from the Latah County Courthouse over to the house. Now, mind you, I don't think they would have went. They wouldn't have taken the jurors inside the house, but they would have taken them, like, to the front door and the side and the back, the back door, and where the sliding glass door is. It would have been a lot more cost effective to have the trial there in Latah, because if the house was still standing now, and it would have been a lot more expensive, because it's a 6-hour drive from Latah County to Ada County. So it would have been a lot more expensive to take the jurors there in Ada to the house, where it would have been a lot cheaper and more cost effective to do it from Latah.
I I'm never going to change my opinion that it was a bad idea to take down the crime scene. And I know for a fact that the only family that really spoke out their feelings in regards to that crime scene home was the Gonzalez family, and they were absolutely against it coming down. They
Yeah.
tried to be respectful, saying that they just had to fall in line, but for many of you, there was a bigger rift between the prosecution and the Gonzalez family. I'm sure there's reasonings all the way down the line for that friction and that division, but this really even pushed that to a higher level. So, no, it was not a good idea to tear that down. You're blowing through money as it is prosecuting this case. If it took a few extra dollars to make sure that people could walk around that crime scene and get the feel of it from outside, that's what you should have darn well done. But
There's another question for me by James Moen. Robert, has there ever been a crime scene destroyed over a year before trial? In my recollection, no, James. I believe this is the first time I've ever seen something like this happen. And I mean, I do agree with the sentiments of AR, that it was the worst thing they could do to tear this house down, like way before the trial even started. And I mean, I have to go back to my comments from the other night, that the way I feel is the reason why the university wanted it gone. It was a stain and blemish on their university, because if you guys remember, uh, from like day one, they always tried to distance themselves from the house by calling it, they were killed in their off-campus home, and everything was off-campus home, even though the house prominently on Greek Road. Now, here's the thing with that, as well. It was a sorority house, because you had Dylan, Bethany, Xana, and Maddie, who were all part of Pi Beta Phi, and you had Kaylee, who was part of Alpha P. So that was a predominant, iconic sorority slash fraternity home, because that one, what was it, that noise complaint, there was no roommates home. It was all sorority and fraternity people partying in there. Because if you remember, I think it was either Emily that answered the door, and it looked like Bethany to me, but someone said it was uh, uh, Hunter's girlfriend Emily, and I think it was Blaker who was threatening Hunter Johnson with burglary or breaking and entering because none of the roommates were home. And just like Olivia has stated, that everyone in that area knew the code to the front door. So what I'm thinking is, while the roommates were away, they were giving permission to this Sigma Chi for them to throw their house parties there.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a lot that goes into this. I just remember very early on that they were in a rush to get in there and begin cleaning that home. And I mean, the initial talk wasn't actually demolishing the home; it was getting in there with the cleaning crews and cleaning it. And Ann Taylor actually had that stopped, and then next thing you know, they were moving forward with the want to remove that home. And to kind of answer, a comment that was made regarding that home, there was no walking anybody through that crime scene home after the fact, because in the investigation they're moving out the majority of the flooring, the walls, the structure wouldn't be sound. The cutting that would be taking place to get the blood splatters and all of the vital, hopeful, evidence of the crime that they're going to utilize in their investigation, which I don't know if they did or they didn't. But if they were utilizing that in their investigation, there would be a lot of missing parts of that home. Not even on top of that, just the overall stench and molding and the things going on in that home from the weather and everything. So, I just, at the end of the day, the house is now gone. We can argue about it all that we want. I think that it's a great conversation that should be utilized through the future of maybe preserving crime scenes a little better manner than they did this one. Um, but here's another question here for you. Do you think the delay in the 911 could be because the roommates were threatened?
Well, honestly, I don't think they were threatened. I mean, because we've heard the statement that Dylan was drunk that night. She didn't know if it was real or a dream, and we don't exactly know what was going on in that house during that 8 hours. We don't know if there was cleanup going on, because I mean, we've heard the rumors about it being a possible dealer house, which I don't think that's true. But technically, we don't exactly know what's going on in that 8 hours. The only thing that would shed some light on it is if they played the 911 call in the trial, even though it's for an unconscious person. I don't understand. I mean, you had all the blood in the house, the smell of the blood, like we talked about the other night. Um, could Dylan have maybe passed out from the smell of it? Could Bethany have passed out? We don't know. And what the key is that call. And will it ever be played in the trial? I don't know. I mean, I hope it's played, because I'd like to hear exactly what went on during that chaotic 911 call where the phone was being passed around. We don't know who was passing the phone around. I mean, it could have been Hunter Johnson and a few other people. We don't know. Um, but the key is that call, and if they play that call in the trial, so maybe that could be more transparent, so we exactly know what was going on in that time the call was taking place.
I agree with you. And I just, look, I'm laughing on the inside. Heather Fitzgerald said, "Hey, I mean, I think we know that there was a cleanup. We got someone holding the vacuum." So, I mean,
Yeah,
ladies and gentlemen, the way that it's being portrayed to us is the cleanup of the crime might have been happening while the crime was actually going. So, I mean, that's interesting. I'm sorry, I had to laugh a little bit on the inside. It's not a laughing situation, but on the inside of me, I was just kind of like, the way that this is coming out and being projected that a quadruple homicide suspect's walking through the house, potentially holding a vacuum. Why did you have to bring in a cleaning crew? You already had one working the crime scene while the crime was happening. But
Yeah,
uh,
there was a question by James a little bit earlier. It says, Robert, what do you make of the vacuum cleaners scene being carried? Could it have been could have been longer, maybe a duffel bag? I mean, we've heard from the Gonzaleses, and you can attest to this, brother. We've heard about like the kill kit, and what I think it is maybe he's carrying a trash bag or something to that effect. I don't think he's going to come into the house with a vacuum cleaner because I mean my God, this person just unalived four people. I don't think they're going to want to stick around and clean up what could be sloppy blood on the floor with a handheld vac, because I don't think a handheld vac and like a dustbuster could even do that. And I heard, I watched that Nancy Disgrace video last night, and somebody stated on her panel that he could have been sucking up coins or some type of fetish. I'm thinking, what? I'm thinking, my God, because now Nancy Grace is on the vacuum cleaner kick. I don't think he was carrying a vacuum cleaner. I think it could have been either his coat or a trash bag or something to that effect. It wasn't a vacuum. But, and I'm going to say this again. It was seen by an uncredible witness who was drunk and didn't know what the hell was going on.
yeah, I mean, one of my points to this is it's crazy to watch people, especially someone like a Nancy Grace, that supposedly, was a lawyer within our system. And, a statement made by Dylan that gives an example of what she feels like the item that someone's carrying out of a crime scene looks like. And now these narratives are being built upon that to fit. Oh, it was a vacuum. He brought it so he could clean up his car. He brought it so he could take tokens from the crime scene. And look, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if it was a handheld vacuum or not. Like, I just don't. We don't have enough evidence of what he actually was carrying. Um, I mean, it could have been a lamp. It could have been anything. And she's just given a description that she felt like it looked like a vacuum. But if you really look, and it's just sad that it gets spun so far out of the
Yeah,
realm of what this really is. It's a young lady that's describing in an interrogation room with law enforcement stacking the deck against her, one law enforcement agent after the other coming in to question her, because it's obvious that they couldn't rule her out right away. There's no possible way they could. So you got to handle someone like that as a potential suspect. And the questions get hard, they get deep, and she's going to do her best to answer those. And sometimes, look, I've done it, Robert. I've been in one of those rooms, and I'm trying to think of
so have I.
how to explain what I saw or what I thought it was, and it comes out something stupid like that. Like,
Yeah,
it's actually a knife, but I claim it looked like a lamp. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So I just think it's pretty far out there, and it's going to be interesting to see, because she's going to have to take the stand, and they're going to question her about that, and she's going to have to walk them back through what she feels like she saw and heard, and it'll be interesting to see how she explains that. But the next question for you, Roberts, do you think that the blood was left out of PCA and not tested too much, so that it could have something for another case if this one gets thrown out?
well, personally, Melissa, thank you for the question, Melissa. When it comes to the IgG, yeah, in the even state, I even stated it in the transcript, yeah, from the 175-page document. Brett Payne was asked about unknown male B and unknown male D, and he stated that they didn't want to upload them because it could destroy the uh, the the touch DNA from the knife sheath. Well, I'm thinking, okay, well that's just touch DNA. You have actual blood DNA from these two unknown male DNAs. Why not, why not upload them, test them, and if you come up with a dead end on both of them, re-upload the DNA from the knife sheath. Yeah, it's not a real investigation. Yeah, because you need to eliminate every suspect, no matter what it is. If you find two unknown male DNAs, you need to test them as part of the investigation to rule these two people out. And it's a sloppy investigation, and it just goes back to, they have these two suspects already on their radar way before Brian's name ever came into it. So that just makes me wonder, is if they're suppressing these two unknown male DNAs, because they have their patsy, basically, because they don't want to destroy the touch DNA for legitimate blood DNA. So they're just gonna say, yeah, they don't exist. But and Taylor kind of perjured, what's his name, Brett Payne, on the stand by asking him about that, and he had to state under oath that they had the DNAs. They refused to test them because they didn't want to destroy the touch DNA on the knife sheath.
And I agree in some senses. Obviously, I have differences of opinions in some other senses, but I mean, as an overall, I just feel because Sky Blue adds to the question that you were answering, why not just try to do the investigation the right way the first time? And that's exactly what we're trying to say, is there are a lot of excuses. There's a lot of reasonings that are being given as to why they didn't do something within their investigation, but there's no actual explanation to the things of how and why they did do some of the things in their investigation. I still, to this day, I right now want somebody to step up to the plate from the FBI and explain to all of us why they broke their own someone like myself or a Brian Koberger or another person being charged with a crime raises the excuses and the explanations as to why things aren't perfectly done. But why can't I get an explanation as to why you cheated the system to try to get a result in your favor? I don't think they'll ever be able to explain that away, Robert. I just don't. And they won't even try.
No.
Um,
And
Next
Meanie
question
dropped.
for you, Robert, is oh, go
Yeah, I
ahead.
was gonna say, Meanie dropped the channel link to my channel on my side, so it should be on your side.
Awesome. I appreciate that, Meanie. And I did see earlier Official dropped your link for your channel a couple of times as well. So anybody that is finding Robert interesting and interested in hearing more of his great work and his content, he works daily on new content. He works very hard on that. Please venture over to his channel, give him some likes, give him some credit for the hard work that he does. Subscribe if you want. And trust me, he's very appreciative of those who decide to
Yes.
become members and support his channel, as he really does work hard. And this is kind of a way for him to help support his family. So don't hesitate in going over and showing him a little bit of love. I would appreciate it. And I know, Robert, you do too.
Yes. And Denise's question, why was Murphy not barking like crazy? Well, it makes me wonder, brother. And you and I have had discussions about this. It makes me wonder if possibly Murphy knew the person. because we heard that the 1112 King Road cam, which was the outside in the outside light bulb cam, you heard the sounds of a dog barking around 417, but it wasn't barking like crazy. So it just makes me wonder if if this person that did this wasn't used to the dog and the dog wasn't used to this person. And maybe there's some like not familial, but I mean, you know what I'm trying to say, brother.
Well, I do. And, the thing about it is, I think it was proven by the testing and also the testimony here recently that it sounds like Murphy was barking for a very long period of time. And sadly, nobody listened to the voice of that dog to hear what was potentially happening, or they did know what was happening and just were unable to do anything about it, or chose to do nothing about it. But I think we're going to find out, when it comes to trial time, that Murphy was barking, was alerting, and people just ignored that. And trust me, look, ladies and gentlemen, I got three dogs. Robert, I know you have some dogs,
Yeah,
and they can tend to yap at times. They bark at the door, and of course, I'll be in the bedroom and I'll scream out for them to be quiet because I don't want to hear it. But sometimes we do have to listen to our furry loved ones. But it did also sound like, and I don't want to absolutely go there, but it does sound like Dylan wasn't a fan of the dog, so she might have just really been trying to ignore it altogether. So,
yeah.
um, Echoes of Clarity asked a good question here. Do you feel as though Bethany's statement was left out because it was exculpatory?
Um, well, if and I do want to say thank you, Sky Blue. She just became a member on my channel. I want to say thank you to you, Sky Blue. Um, was Bethany's testimony left out because it was exculpatory? Well, we don't technically know that because she's not mentioned very much in the PCA. Yeah, I mean, from what I see, the only thing that's mentioned about her is where she saw Ethan and Xana at the Sigma Chi house, at their party. And of course, Jeff Cronola he's also came out and said that he had talked to Xana at midnight, and Xana had stated she was at the house eating pizza with Ethan. So with Bethany stating that they were there until 1:45, but her dad stating that he had talked to her at midnight and she was at the house, it kind of draws into question exactly what Bethany really saw. And because after all, if you think about it, after these interviews with MPD and ISP and FBI, Bethany lawyered up and moved straight out of Idaho back to Reno. So and I know Aunt Taylor said she had exculpatory evidence, and I was thinking it was that exculpatory evidence. Maybe she wasn't home at the time of the killings. Well, we don't know because we're not in the mind of Bethany. And because Bethany's already stated she don't want to go back to Idaho. She stated that through her attorney. She does not want no part of this case. She doesn't want to go back to Idaho because she's in fear she's going to get arrested. Now, what can she get arrested for? Uh, maybe impeding justice because they didn't call 911 for 8 hours. Obstruction of justice is what they call it, which is in Idaho. It's a year in jail. Could she be scared that she might go to jail if she came back to Idaho? I don't know. Yeah, like I said, I'm not Bethany. I'm not inside of her head. But as far as her having exculpatory evidence, she might. But will we hear it? I doubt it.
Yeah, I think she lawyered up, and look, I am gonna let everybody just truthfully know, if you're ever in a situation where you have to go into an interview slash interrogation room, you need to lawyer up. whether you're there as a witness, whether you're there to just give information, whether you're there as an actual suspect, you need to have a lawyer. I don't care what people say. If you're not guilty, you don't need a lawyer. Yes, you do. Because of situations just like what's happening, not only in this case, but many cases around. Uh, I mean, Bethany could have gone in there and tried to speak a few things. And the next thing you know, she realized how heavily law enforcement was putting stuff onto her shoulders. And at that point, she backpedaled and said, "Hey, wait, I'm not talking to you. I'm getting a lawyer." And that lawyer advised her to go on her way and get the heck out of this mess. And probably utilized the excuse, "I don't know nothing. I didn't see anything. I was on the first floor," and blah, blah, blah. So, that's and Mark and Betty asked me, can we talk about Brent? Yes, absolutely. We can talk about Brent because Brent is not completely off limits when it comes to the Idaho 4 case. There's many of ties here that could
Yeah.
bring him into this picture in a heartbeat. Unfortunately, where we're at in today, and from when it happened, is he lost his life at the hands of law enforcement. Not everybody agrees that that was the proper way that whole situation should have gone down. There's many of thought processes that puts him into a list of potential suspects and things of that nature. I can't disqualify him. Just like when I look at Brian Koberger and I say, I don't see it, but other people do, and that's why he's arrested. Well, when I look at Brent Kopacka, I could see a little bit more of the mental illness. I could see a little bit of the downfall happening in life. I could see the capability of using a K-bar weapon because he was military trained. I can understand that he most likely had a few habits because we've all seen the body cam footage of him sitting scared out of his
Yeah.
mind in the hallway of a hotel, pretty much letting everybody know he felt like his life was in danger. And how sad is that? Think about that, Robert, that you're sitting in the hallway explaining that you feel as though your life is in danger, that somebody has a firearm and your life is in danger, that they've threatened you, and the very people that you share your fear with of losing your life are the ones that took it.
Yeah.
Imagine that, right?
Yeah.
Imagine that one.
And yeah, what I've been thinking about this whole thing with the other BK, Brent Kopacka, it feels like sometimes that the SWAT team silenced him. Like maybe maybe he knew something because he was ex-military. And I've seen some of the I've seen some of the old body cams from from that night. And how they're stating that his roommates called, said he was going ballistic and da 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 da. And was shown on Crime Circus a long time ago. And you could tell by the body cam there was nothing going on in the apartment. uh the door was open, the fan was going. You could hear you could hear the TV going, and you could see Brent up just moving around. uh and he had like a beer in his hand from the body cam. I honestly feel sometimes that he was silenced for, I don't know for what, but that's what I feel sometimes, that he was silenced because he knew something, and the whoever it was didn't want that getting out.
Well, and I think all of us, we're still searching for a connection. We're still searching for that direct reasoning of how somebody could have unalived these individuals from that home. And look, I still sift through the waste and I look at, okay, let's find a connection here. Let's just use our thinking skills just a little bit outside the box. And I look at the individuals that live in the home and who could they potentially know and be connected to outside that
Yeah.
home. And one of the first things that comes to my mind is I look directly at someone like Emma Bailey and I
Yeah.
say, well, I know she's connected to the home because she's friends with Dylan Mortensen and she is seen on body camera leaving that home, getting in her
Yep.
car to drive away. So I
Yep.
know there's a connection there. Okay. And
Yeah.
then so many people make this, such a big deal that it's not possible that Emma signed Brent Kopacka's obituary book. And I'm thinking to myself, how can you make that statement? Like, where legitimately can you come across to say that's not potential? Because why, if somebody was trying to create a connection, why would they go put Emma Bailey's name in that book as a signature? I mean, why? Emma Bailey signed her own name to that. I mean, let's just be real about this. We know there's a connection between Emma Bailey and Brent Kopacka, whether it's friendship, whatever it might be. I think there's a narcotic connection right there. I mean, let's just be real about it. There's a narcotic connection there. And now if somebody had come out, Robert, let's just say around the arrest date in January, and somebody brought to the table, they said, hey, look, we have two people that we have zeroed in on as suspects of this case, and we can connect them to each other. Let's say Brent Kopacka and Brian Koberger. We can connect these two, and they could showcase that connection and then showcase any of that connection to the King Road home. I think at that moment, I could have said, this makes sense. But I
Yeah.
can't make sense of it when people tell me that Branko Paca didn't have a connection with people that surround that home. And then, this is where things just start to miss making sense because you've arrested Brian Koberger and you've laid out zero, zero connection and zero motive.
And you debunk it. The state themselves debunked the stalking. There in the courtroom when Bill Thompson said there's no evidence of stalking, there's no evidence of connection to the victims, then why is this guy still sitting in jail when the state themselves said there was no evidence of connection or stalking?
Well, the bigger question, even outside of that, Robert, is if you can't prove connection, you can't prove motive. And then it starts coming back after the fact. We didn't find anything in his car. We didn't find anything in this young man's apartment. We didn't find anything in his mother's or father's home. Okay. Look, I get it. That Brian Koberger could be a very odd individual. Maybe he bags stuff up at 3 o'clock in the morning for the sake of doing it. I don't know. Maybe he is up through the night vacuuming his floors. Some of us do that. Maybe he goes on late night drives with his car and doesn't have a lot of friends that can confirm that for people. Okay, I remember those days because I did
Same
that
here.
too. Um, so just because you're off and you're unusual doesn't connect you to a quadruple homicide. And people would say, oh, wait, we have this white car on camera. Okay. Now we're speaking like you're heading in the right direction, but I don't want to hear about a car that drove circles around neighborhoods. Can you show me anything where that car stopped? Show me where it stopped. Show me where you on camera have that car parked around the crime scene. And then I want you to show me this so-called, because you could hear the dog barking and all of that on these cameras. Can you show me some sort of sound that with the picture that I'm looking at Brian Koberger getting out of his car near the crime scene, can you add any audio to that?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you can't. So the connection is still missing from the house for me. And I think the last time I checked, Robert, to commit a quadruple homicide, well, you had to be there to do it. And I'm not
Yeah.
talking about a knife sheath with a little bit of your DNA on it was there. I mean, you had to be there. And I think that there has to be a connection for that to be provable.
Oh yeah. I mean, especially when Brett Payne when they're talking about the surveillance in that closed hearing, and where Brett Payne states uh, it was a question by Ann Taylor on how they nicknamed the cameras, and Brett Payne said. So first one was from 1112 King Road. It was surveillance camera, exterior surveillance camera on a house, which light bulb cam. That was immediately to the northeast of 1122 King Road. There was some footage. Now, here's where he brings Linda Lane into it. He said there's some footage from Linda Lane. I forgot the address off the top of my head. There was footage from the A&W, which is at the corner of Louder and South Main. And I saw a post from somebody earlier asking if Linda Lane is being considered viable again. I'm sorry, I don't consider Linda Lane viable because it's been chopped and it's been everything else been altered, it's been enhanced, and I don't understand why uh, Brett Payne would comment that there was some footage from Linda Lane.
I mean, I can't say Linda Lane um, doesn't have relevance to it because I don't know. But what I can say is that doesn't pinpoint a white Elantra, if
Yeah,
that's what they deem as the vehicle on it, stopping near the crime scene. It doesn't showcase to me that that car actually stopped to commit a crime. And I get it. I mean, they released in their PCA that they got some sort of video of a car making a 3-point turnaround. And I mean, that kind of looks like the Linda Lane footage to me. Like it stopped, it made a 3-point turnaround, went back the other direction. That doesn't mean it stopped. And if that's what you're utilizing, what we've all seen on that camera, that he was looking for somewhere to park and didn't find it, well, hell, then he wasn't parking at the crime scene. I mean, I guess it would be
yeah,
somewhat near it, but that doesn't put him at the crime scene because he didn't even park there. So how do you deem that he was looking for a place to park if he didn't actually park there?
yeah,
Um, that's the whole thing. Like until somebody comes out with some sort of just valuable, admission to a direct link, whether it be a best friend to a best friend, somebody's got to know somebody. And I haven't heard anybody come out within that entire community from either Washington State or from the University of Idaho that can put Brian Koberger in any direct contact with any of these victims. And I do agree with Mark and Betty. She's saying that was originally a targeted attack, and in my experience, and I'll give you what that means in my experience, a targeted attack is very personable, very direct, and there is always a connection and always a motive that's easily provable to a targeted attack, because you wouldn't call it targeted unless you knew the connection and you knew the reasoning why. That's called targeted. Like when you say targeted, you got that big bullseye on the back of somebody's shirt,
yeah,
and then somebody comes and takes them out by hitting in the middle of that bullseye. Um, there's a connection to it. And Jeff H says, I think the house was targeted. There would still be a connection. There would be a reasoning for that. And Vic's logic, I understand the parents. A lot of people point their fingers at the parents, but guess what? Um, the parents were out and about too. And if it was the parents, why was it this house when it could have just easily been over at Jasmine's house if we're talking about Kara's children? Why couldn't it have been one of the other family members if it was the Gonzalez children?
Yeah.
And it's not hard to find the Mogan couple. Trust me, I easily found them when I looked. So you look, okay, if you want to utilize the thought process that this stems to a connection outside of a connection to the kids, and now you're saying, well, the connection has to be the house, and that deems because of the parents. I disagree heart and soul, because the parents are not the connection to this house. They're not the connection. These kids, Robert, these kids are moving parts.
Oh yeah, I know, brother, and I agree with you.
All right. So when I say moving parts, Kaylee could be literally at her parents' house. Kaylee could be literally at her boyfriend's house. Kaylee could literally have already moved to Texas, and Kaylee could have gone overseas to go on her traveling escapade, because these are all things Kaylee does.
Yeah.
When you look at somebody like Maddie, she's a young, vibrant young lady with a boyfriend from another city. She's on the move as well.
Hmm.
Xana, working hard in school, boyfriend. And people will argue and say, well, they're not moving parts. They're college kids. They're moving parts. They are moving parts, meaning that if you target the house, you never know what you're going to get within that home. Are you going to get Hunter Johnson? Are you going to get Jack Decor? Are you going to get one of the other boyfriends? Look, I mean, Ethan might most likely wasn't even supposed to be there. There's a moving part for you right there. You targeted the home. Well, guess what? Ethan was in it. Was he supposed to be there? I don't know. And Vic's logic, I absolutely agree with you. Trust me. There are many times where people are the target, and it's based upon actions and reasons of their own doing. And just my point, we don't know what the motive. We don't know, and I hope we learn that, because that's the only way. Motive and connection is the only way that we're all going to find a little bit of I guess, comfortability within ourselves that the crime was properly investigated and then solved.
Yeah. Because like you stated around the beginning of the live, that we're tired of hearing from Brett Payne the I don't knows, the I can't recall, the I don't remembers. Just like Ian Taylor asked him a question, how many hours of videotapes do you think you reviewed? I don't remember a lot. I can't give you an accurate representation.
So I mean, where it all fell apart was the fact that um, local law enforcement put on the show for everybody to watch that a proper investigation was happening. And
Which it
behind the
wasn't.
scenes, right, behind the scenes, instead of that in our face, transparent investigation, working through the local community and keeping everybody up above board, they turned behind everybody's back and broke their own protocols to speed through an IGG process that, even after being explained it 5 million times, most people aren't going to be able to understand it. And then at the end of the day, we're sitting here now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a trial that starts literally with jury selection in late July. So we're at this moment. What does that put us at? About 4 months out, Robert. 4 months out
Yeah.
right now. Okay. From beginning this trial. and there's still nothing that could put
No.
any ties to a connection, any motive, any truth, anything that backs a legitimate investigation at all. And we're sitting here about ready to go to trial. And the defense is still motioning for more discoverable evidence. And the argument's still on, and not over, in regards to what's going to be brought to trial and be able to be used, because even the prosecution now seems like they're trying to negate their own original evidence.
Yeah.
Like they're
And,
trying to get their own evidence nullified.
yeah. And Tennille just made a comment in the chat. State has requested to block Cyray. Well, here's the thing though. I mean, how they can block Cyray is if, like in that one case summary thing we were looking at last night, if they suppress their own AT&T cell tower data records. I mean, that's one way to block Cyray because he wouldn't have nothing to testify to. And the only way I can think of is the reason why they want to have those suppressed is because there's something in that cell tower data that puts Brian somewhere else that the prosecution does not want the jury to see.
Yeah, I agree.
They're like doing one thing with their left hand and saying at the same time, don't look at the right.
Right. And I want to jump into a little bit of conversation that's happening within the chat. And look, that shower curtain that's missing out of Brian Koberger's apartment.
I heard about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a conversational point that could be, we could either relate it to Brian Koberger not being a cleansely individual, and he's overly cleansely and threw it away before he left on the trip to go with his family. Or could he have potentially been one of those knuckleheads that took his actual shower curtain to wrap evidence from a crime scene up into and discard it? I'm not going to say a shower curtain could not be used for that reason. It very well could be. And I'm sure if we scoured through the realms of criminal cases through the years upon years of crimes happening, shower curtains are utilized to move things that could potentially have liquid discarding that could be used as evidence, hence blood, saliva, semen, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
It is a type of material that could literally protect leakage of fluid. So yeah, I could understand it, but at the end of the day, I mean, we're talking about a PhD student in criminology that's being charged with this crime, and I think he could have done a better thought process than his own shower curtain from his apartment to be able to accomplish that. I mean, I get it. A lot of people out there, Robert, think that Brian Koberger is the biggest retard they've ever seen in their lives, where I tend to disagree with that. I just tend to disagree with that.
Yeah, and the comment Jeff made, Jeff H made about the shower curtain, he stated, "Shower curtain could be something, could be nothing."
Yeah, and that's exactly true. And the I guess at the end of the day, statement that can be made about most of the investigation within this case, at the end of the day, could be something.
Yeah.
But right now, as we're working through the process, each thing that had the opportunity to be a something is getting discredited.
Yeah.
In the courtroom through the arguments, and even the own prosecution has had to stand up and use the wording, the PCA that we referred everybody to shout to the rooftops that this is the holy grail, the PCA, everybody get all this information out. And now they say, that
It's irrelevant.
it's irrelevant to the case. We've moved on in our investigation. None of that stuff adds up anymore. Just ignore it. Um, so it's it's just a different thinking. And Jeff H, I mean, he brings up a point that I've had the privilege of talking with Mr. Koberger, and I've got a bit of an advantage over us trying to understand this man. And I mean, I guess that's true in the few and far conversations that we've been able to enjoy. Um, I enjoyed them. I hope he did too. We did not talk about the case. We did not talk about evidence. We didn't talk about anything that had to do with his life that would present a reasoning behind this. So I don't know if I have an advantage over anybody when it comes to trying to understand the case or the reasonings why somebody would um, commit something like this. Did I know there was potential that we would see some of these filings in regards to the autistic situation and stuff like that? I had a sense, but it's not something I directly asked him. So Sky Blue has asked the question if I talked to Brian Kober. I think that I think many know that I have, and they knew that I did this a long time ago, and I've pursued speaking with him more recently. It's not how does somebody take my call. Jeff H, all of his visitation, everything that he has is initiated via him on online visitation. You have to go through the whole system to be able to do that. But also, Brian Koberger is able to make phone calls himself. You can't call anybody in jail. So I know
No,
you can.
it's all outgoing.
Yeah, I mean, you could send messages via email and stuff like that, but at the point now where we're at now in this case, you'll never get through. He'll never respond. Um, Koberger reached out to me, not originally, not first. No, there was a connection there that was able to get us connected, and it was not myself. So. Um, and that's something I really want to be very careful of is, I'm not going to get into a lot of the discussion in regards to the hows and the whys and the things of that nature that's something maybe down in the future if it becomes more available to discuss then at a better, more appropriate time. I think right now this young man, um, he's 100% fighting for his life, and the communications that he has and chooses to have are with the people that mean something to him, or he feels as though it could benefit something for him in his life. And I'm not there to learn from him in regards to what's happening. Have I talked to Ann Taylor? Of course, I've talked to Ann Taylor. Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to talk to Ann Taylor. Otherwise, you will never talk to Brian Kober. You won't get a letter to Brian Kober. You won't get anywhere uh, if you're not going through Ann Taylor. And it's even a step more than Ann Taylor because in the beginning, Ann Taylor worked for the state for the the public defender's office, which is ran by the state. So this went well above Ann Taylor's head to get any type of communication abilities or to be able to speak with him or have him reach out and speak with you. So this is a very long process. This is a capital case. Um, Yes, I was absolutely in a van in
Yeah,
Maricopa County with Jody Arias while she was going to court, and I was back on a cell phone charge from the penitentiary. So I was not actually in jail. I was being held in the penitentiary, coming back to Maricopa County, going back to court on charges from the penitentiary of cell phone, which is on my actual DOC record for promoting jail or prison contraband, which is at the exact time that Jodi Arias was going through her trial.
I've been while we've been talking. looking at some of the excerpts from uh, the closed hearing transcripts, and something stuck out. And now I want to get your thoughts on this, brother. Ann Taylor asked Brett Payne, let's go back to that time before you started adding the traffic stop, which was, I believe back in August 2020. It contains some information that you gained from other officers. Is that right? And he said, yes, ma'am. And she said, okay. And you didn't write large parts of that affidavit. Is that also right? And this is coming from Brett Payne. I took a lot of language from experts and other officers and agents. That's correct. She said, well, are you aware your affidavit, your living document, the people as their own original document, not giving you any credit, but you claimed it as their own. Are you aware of that? And he says, yes, ma'am.
I don't mean to cut you off, Robert, but Jeff H., I'm beginning to feel like you've got many Forrest Gump-like experiences crossing paths with many known folks in crime. So I tend to disagree with you, considering there's criminals locked up entirely across this country that I do not know. I can speak upon those that I have crossed paths with, and I can speak of those that I've been kind of have I ever had issues with lying, Jeff? Yeah, my entire life. I think I've been pretty transparent about that. Now, Jeff, here's a statement I'm going to make for you, because I'm pretty upfront. I'm pretty respectful with people, and you've come into my chat, my channel, to disrespect me. So what I would like to do is actually have this conversation behind the scenes, where you and I can talk like men. And if you have an issue with something I have to say, or you want to point at something as if I'm lying, I'll have that conversation with you. I won't do it in public like fools. So I've appreciated you, I've respected you, and you've now come to my channel, my channel. And Robert, I'm sorry this is happening while you're here with me, but you've come to my very channel to try and discredit me, call me a liar, call me bogus, when I've been nothing but straight up on my channel to tell people how dishonest and how big of a piece of whatever I was that cost me my entire family. So if you feel as though your disrespect is going to overwhelm me or give me to step down upon things that I have to say, you're wrong. So I ask you respectfully, Jeff, to go ahead and take a back seat when it comes to my channel. I'll respect you from afar from the channels that you go to and you speak on, and you do. But you do not come to my channel and disrespect me, because now you're disrespecting my wife, who lived the entirety of this situation with me, just because you feel as though you don't understand my life or how I lived it. And that's fine. If you don't understand it, that's fine. I'm not here to make you understand it. I see what people say about me in other chats, and I'm a blind eye to it. So what I'm going to say is goodbye. If you want to chat off the platform, we will do that. But you're not welcome back on my channel. You will not disrupt my channel's chat. The great conversations we have here. I don't need you. I don't care what your opinion of me is. So I'm going to thank you for stepping out, and I'm going to ban you. So have a good night. Sorry, Robert.
It's okay. I just had to ban somebody as well. Somebody named Fireball was coming in and totally disrespecting you too, so I went ahead and banned them.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, the entirety of this is I'd like to give you guys a safe place to be able to come and you can share your opinions, you can share your thoughts. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? I will share some of my experiences in life with you so that you can get a better sense of not only who I am as a person, because many on this platform have gotten to know me very well outside of just YouTube. They've gotten to know me as a person, what I stand for. And guys, have I lied? That's a question right there. Have I lied in my life? I think every single one of you. I think every single one of you knows that I have. That's a stupid, stupid question. But I don't need to. I've got a beautiful wife. I've got 3 amazing dogs. I have a good roof over my head. I've got a future that I never had when I was younger because I cost it for myself. It's okay if you don't like me. It's okay if you don't trust me. It's okay. But don't come over here and disrespect not only me, but my community. I care about everybody within this community. And I appreciate everybody that's here. And I appreciate everybody that's working with Robert and I asking amazing questions. I thought I could answer
Yes.
that question respectfully and honestly without being attacked like I'm a liar. Have I communicated with Brian Koberger? Yes, I have. Have I communicated with Brian Koberger's family? Yes, I have. Can I change the scenario he's in? No, I can't. But I've made the statement that I don't judge people. And whether he committed this crime or not, I can't tell you. I don't know if Robert just jumped off and he'll be back or not. But I mean, the fact is, I carry myself with the best level of respect I can because I want to make my wife proud. I want to make a difference in not only my wife's life, her family's life, my own life. And if I can help some of you have a little better day or feel a little bit more confident or just enjoy a safe place to talk, I want to help you with that as well. I hope Robert comes back. I'm not sure if he decided that maybe he doesn't want to have to deal with this. So, um, I'm sorry I got off course, guys. I'm sorry this kind of took a negative turn. I don't want that for anybody. I've got amazing people here that I truly care about. And again, I'm sorry that it went that way. Um, it's Friday night. I don't know if people are just out to have a little bit of fun or not, but I see Doodlebug's back in here, and we've got a community of amazing people here, guys. I mean, it's amazing people, and so many people have warned me of the attacks that they endure, and I give people the open opportunity to act appropriately themselves. And I saw some of the names coming into the chat, and I kind of knew this is where we were gonna go with this because these people have attacked me before. I've been called uh, a racist. I've been called all kinds of things on this platform, and all I've done is stayed true to who I am, the respect factor I want to work within, and I've given everybody the opportunity. If you don't want to be here, you don't have to be. If you don't want to support me, it's okay. It's okay. It's all right. I don't need to lie for anybody's support. I don't need to tell stories to get you to believe them. Jeff, I see your back. All right. Look, I know you have many accounts, man, and I don't want to have to go. I, yeah, I did go out to Moscow and I did do some dumb stuff. Um, you could keep bringing up all these things that I talk about, and then you could put it in your head that it's creating a story. But I mean, come on, man. Do I have to continue to block all 900 of your accounts, or are you just going to get the idea you're not welcome here? I mean, you're not welcome here, man. I'm sorry, guys. I mean, I'm human, um, like each and every single one of you. And Robert's coming back up. I just want to say before I land back up here, um, I'm human like every single one of you. So I do get frustrated. I don't like to be called a liar. I was a liar my entire life, and I know I can deserve that at times, but man, to think that Robert and I are working tonight to enjoy a good community and have good discussions, and you know we're just talking about true crime, and I lend you some of my experiences. I guess, is it people like that makes it, Robert, to where maybe now I just go back into my hole and I just say I'm not going to share a part of myself with anybody ever again?
No, because and sorry, my StreamYard kicked me, so that's why I dropped off. And it wasn't intentional. My StreamYard actually kicked me. Um, no, you're a good person, AR, and yeah, I knew that from the first day I met you. And we should not let, yeah, and Jeff and I, we've had our banter, we've had our back and forth in comments and stuff like that. But we shouldn't let people like that deter us from opening up to the people that care about us, to the subscribers that care about us. And we I mean there's like you and I discussed the night that I broke down on panel because of what was happening on another channel. um yeah and that broke me so bad because of that happening to me. I almost walked away. And the one person that that not only talked me out of it was my soon to be 10-year-old. He told me, "Don't give up on justice, Daddy." And two other people who I care about on this platform is you and Kiki. And you guys had some really good words of wisdom for me, behind the scenes that night. And I'm not going to let people deter me from getting the truth out in this case. And you shouldn't let people deter you, even if they come into chat like he did. Yeah, and that's totally uncalled for what he did. And you had every right to do what you did to him. And brother, I'll say this right now. I love you. Your family, and we're all, like you said, we're all human. We all make mistakes. But what he did tonight wasn't a mistake. It was total disrespect.
Well, and I appreciate that. And another gentleman in here, Ronnie Sutton, he's like a brother to me as well. We have a lot of similarities. And this is a gentleman that if I was lying about my past, trust me, this man, Ronnie Sutton, would know because he's been through it too. And he's given me very valuable, you know, I guess point of views, and this is important, Robert. And we do need to listen to those that have the years of experience behind them. We're not going to waste the last 2.5 hours worth of work that Robert and I put in to put on a good discussion and engage all of you in this. I'm going to dust off my shoulder and I'm just going to scrape that mess off, and we're going to move forward because you know what? It's not the first time I've been disrespected. It won't be the last time. I mean, if I quit, it will be the last time, and I'm not quitting. So I guess I just ought to prepare myself to continue to work through it. So we've had a beautiful 2.5 hours
Yes.
worth of discussion here. At the end of the day, everybody's thoughts and opinions are warranted in a respectful manner. And I think we all look at this case with open eyes. We look at many of the cases that are going on at this time. We're looking at the way missing people's cases, like Doodlebug, is so dedicated to, and how they're being handled. And it's sickening, and it's scary to see. And I just hope that we can continue to open people's eyes that could make a difference. That's the key, guys. The more power that we put into people like us, the everyday individuals that walk through society, the people that vote, the people that pay taxes, the people that have actual say, because they're the ones that can go to your local politicians and push for change and push for improvement. That's why we do this. That's why we continue down this path. And like I said, it's that quest, it's that change that I would like to see for so many, because I know just how good change feels. Because I can step away from a situation like that, where the old me would have to get defensive and have to lie some more and try to cover up the lies I told before the lies. And I would have to just work through this whole backwards way of doing things. And now, because I know that I've been transparent, I know I can just dust this off and get back to everyday life and not even worry about that, because my wife's going to come home, give me a kiss at the end of the day. Uh, and appreciate what I've been able to accomplish today, and encourage me to move forward and continue to do it.
Yeah.
So,
Just like Deanna's comments, we are not robots. We are good humans with feelings.
yeah, and I took some of that personal, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm sorry. I felt it within me, and I felt like I was about ready to somewhat um, come unglued, and I had dictated to myself that I would not allow YouTube to accomplish that for me. And I was a little out of character, but I'm glad all of you were able to help reel me back in. I say a big thank you to all of you, and I appreciate all of you, whether we agree on if somebody's guilty or not guilty, or whatever it might be. What we need to actually agree on is we do need improvement and change in our society and in our communities and in the backing of each other. And we need to move forward and just
Yeah.
care about each other instead of tearing someone down because of their past. Let's build each other up to have a better future. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what's important.
I agree. It just it seems like it seems like in this case, yeah, everyone's so divided. I mean, you have the pro burgers, you have the guilters, and then you have us who kind of like stand between the gap as truth seekers. And like you stated at the beginning of the live, yeah, we stand in the middle, and all we want is true justice in this case. Whatever justice is dealt, as long as it's real and true justice.
I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. So, you know, they asked for a joke, and I was just gonna say I could tell you a joke, or I could show you a joke. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, um, I life is cool, man, and the people that you get to meet and endeavor things with, and just like Heather Fitzgerald. I've known her for a long time behind the scenes. Just amazing. Deb Tape. There's so many amazing people.
Yeah,
It's like, if we just carry ourselves with integrity, respect, and that was the first thing. Like, I'll tell everybody, um, it's kind of a cool story because I mean it means a lot to me. And when I was getting released from the penitentiary, which is all because of my wife, trust me, there's so many stories that could go into why I was getting released, but she literally pulled like the strings at the very end of my sentence to actually get me released, and it was awesome. But right before I got out, I mean, I'm covered in tattoos, and they're prison work. They're all prison tattoos. I think I have one that's from the streets from when I was a kid. That, God, if I could blast that off, I could. But before I got out, I went to the tattoo artist up the run, and I said, I need you to do me a favor. He said, what's that? And I said, I need you to write some very important words on my body that I never thought I would be able to own and wear. And he says, what's that? And I said, if you could tattoo honesty, integrity, respect on me, it would mean the world to me. He goes, why would you tattoo that on you? I said, because every day, if I can look into the mirror and I could read those three things, it's going to remind me what I'm driven to be on an everyday basis. And trust me, ladies and gentlemen, I have to look in that mirror at times to remember that. And I'm proud of it. I'm very proud of it. So, as we continue working, because I know Robert, you're not leaving the platform anytime soon, are you?
No. Um, yeah. I'm afraid my 10-year-old will kick my ass.
Yeah. I'm not leaving it. Um, I'm not leaving this platform either. We're going to be discussing cases far beyond the Idaho 4, but I think we got to start and just continue to hold ourselves accountable, Robert. We're looking for true justice. We're not
Yes.
looking for fairy tales. We're not looking to develop, craziness and all of that. We're looking for true justice. We're looking for true answers. And we're going to continue to do good work. And this community, I could already tell they're going to be with us for a long haul.
Oh yeah. And especially I wanted to give out a shout out to Sky Blue, who became a member on my channel earlier.
Yep, she's amazing. She became a member on mine this evening as well, and I want to say thank you to Mikey S. He gifted a membership and also did a super chat, which was super amazing of him. Um, Robert, I'm going to kind of, if we can wind it down a little bit for
Oh yeah.
tonight, we've been going for a good while. I believe tomorrow night we will probably do it again. I'm not sure, Robert, if you're available tomorrow night. I know Sunday's a big day for you. If you're available tomorrow night, I think I'm in discussion of doing something with Kiki. So if you want to jump in with that, we got more valid and good talking points to be had. Guys, I
Oh
appreciate
yes.
every single one of you guys. Robert, why don't you say what you have to say? And then I'll send us off on our way with our final goodbyes. So go and get
Okay.
out what you got.
Okay. I want to first. I want to say thank you to Unfiltered Lucky for coming and hanging out in my chat for a little while. You're always welcome there, Lucky. You're like a brother to me, and I watch your videos like crazy. And like I told AR earlier, I just got a printer today, so I've been printing out documents and I've been scouring them and doing my own research. And I got a text from AR when I told him that. He goes, "Good job, man." But I want to say thank you for everyone who's been chatting in his chat tonight, as well as mine. Meanie, Mark and Betty, Unfiltered Lucky, Sky Blue, Echoes of Clarity, Maury. I want to say Bria Silva. I want to say thank you to all you guys. Meanie, I'm so proud that you're my mod as well. As well as you and Echoes of Clarity, and Mark and Betty and Kane B when he decides to pop in. But I want to tell you all I love you guys. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to get down to the bottom of this case as best as I can. And I was asked, my brother. I was asked by Kiki earlier. She's doing a live tomorrow morning with Miss Potts, and she asked me if I wanted to jump up on panel with her tomorrow morning. And she was wanting to do a members live. I told her, I said no. I says I'm not doing a members live. Yeah, because it that won't help my channel. It has to be public. So she's agreed to do a public live with me and Miss Potts in the morning.
Yeah, she reached out to me in regards with that, knowing that I'm a big supporter of Miss Potts. I'm a big supporter of both of you. So I will be in the chat for that live tomorrow, watching you guys showcase the amazingness that all of you are. So anybody and everybody that will be available, please stop by that, because that's going to be three great minds working together for a great conversation. I'll be in the chat to mingle with all of you and hang out. I know it's going to be a good conversation. So I look forward as well. Please, everybody, don't forget, stop by the various channels, give your thumbs up, give your likes to all of these individuals and amazing content creators: Echoes of Clarity, Heather Fitzgerald, Robert, Kiki. I could speak volumes about all of them. There's many. Unfiltered Lucky. Just show them some love, give them a big thumbs up, and reward them through the community hugs for all the hard work that they actually do. I personally couldn't thank all of you enough. I know for a fact, as a matter of fact, and I almost forgot, I feel dumb. She's my long-term mod. Doodlebug has an amazing channel over there for the missing, and I'm working on putting some together for those flyers to be at the end of my lives and my videos. So please, when you are able to watch, please give the credence of the flyers as well, because missing people are extremely important. But at the end of the day, I'm not sure what my next bit of work will be. I know that Jen and I are looking at Sunday and Monday to where we're going to do some work not only on a convict's thoughts of true crime, but we're going to spend a little bit of time, family film time, where we're going to do some work with the dogs and a few things to showcase our at home life for any of those that are ever interested in how we live as a family and the funniness that we all do. Please keep your eyes open for that, as our channel for that is Pennies Go Stripping. I know it sounds funny. It is funny, but it's entertaining, and it keeps a light heart towards things. Monday, I know I'll be working directly with Unfiltered Lucky and also Warning Labeled Nina to do another amazing live there. And then, of course, Robert, Kiki, and I are always up for more work and more lives. So I'm sure, keep your eyes open. We'll be back in front of everybody again. Right, Robert?
Right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to send you guys on your way. We send you out with a bunch of love, big hugs.
Yes.
Appreciate all of you. And we'll be talking with you all again very soon. And have a good night.
Peace out, guys.